Hi, it's Chef Robyn again. Wanted to do another dish for you guys. I know everybody's trying to stay home, stay safe, and I hope everybody's doing well. Today, I'm going to do homemade bagels. So something I actually can't do in my culinary classes that I teach because it takes a little bit longer. So I'm looking forward to doing that with you, and it only has a few ingredients. So hopefully everybody has everything they need to make the bagels. So I'm looking forward to making these, and hopefully you will make them this weekend, hopefully. All right, so let's make some bagels. So the first thing that we're gonna do for our bagels is we are going to add 1.5 cups of warm water. And when I say warm water, you wanna temp it out at about 110 degrees. So I have that, so we're gonna add that 1.5 cups in. And then 2 3/4 teaspoons of yeast. So every packet of yeast is 2 1/4 teaspoon. So you're gonna need a little over 1 packet of yeast. So we're gonna add that into our bowl. And we're gonna whisk to combine. And then we're gonna let that rest for about 5 minutes, just to give that yeast a chance to activate. So we're gonna lay a little towel over it, just so that that warmth doesn't go away. And just let it kind of hang out. So we'll cover it up and let it rest. 5 minutes. All right, so it's been 5 minutes that we've let that water and yeast rest. So we are, woo, look at that. Actually, that's amazing. Can you see how that yeast is activating right there? That's awesome. So what we're gonna do at this point is we're gonna add our bread flour, and that's 4 cups. When you measure your bread flour, you wanna make sure you spoon it into your measuring cup and then level it off, because flour in general can really get thick and dense as it rests in whatever container that you put it in. So you wanna make sure you spoon it in lightly and then level it off. We're going to put 4 cups of bread flour, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, and 2 teaspoons of salt. The only thing that I would say at this point is if you don't have bread flour, it's not going to turn out quite the same as if you use bread flour. Bread flour has a very high protein count, and so with that being said, it's going to make that chewy, dense bagel that you're used to. If you use regular flour, which you can if that's all you have, you're gonna get the texture of a cinnamon roll. So not that chewy, dense texture that you're used to for a bagel. So if you have to, just know it's not quite the same as if you would use that bread flour that has a high protein count. Okay, 4 cups going into our yeast. 2 teaspoons of salt, kosher salt's what I'm using, it's what I have. And a tablespoon of brown sugar. And whatever you got, I have light brown sugar. You can use the dark brown sugar too, if that's what you have. There we go. We're gonna use a mixer with a dough hook to do the next part. It just makes things go a little bit faster. If you don't have that, you can knead it yourself through the whole thing, but if you do that, it's gonna be about 20 minutes of kneading. So this is only gonna be 2 minutes of kneading with the KitchenAid or whatever brand you've got of a mixer, and then 5 minutes by hand. But otherwise, you can do it all by hand. It's just gonna take a little bit of time. So we're gonna put this on low. About 2 minutes for this to come together. All right, so it has been 2 minutes, and so I'm gonna shut it off. The reason you can only let it knead in the bowl of a mixer for 2 minutes is it becomes so dense that actually going forward and trying to do it in your mixer is gonna be too hard. That's why you have to finish with 4 to 5 minutes of hand mixing. So, you can see how beautiful the dough looks, nice and thick. Pull that off. And you just want a lightly floured surface, and now we're looking to knead for 4 to 5 minutes. So I'm gonna put for 4. minutes. When you knead, palm of your hand is what you're gonna use to knead with. I like to do a heart shape, so I will push, pull back, and push the opposite way and pull back. We're gonna do it for 4 minutes, so it'll be a bit before this is done. All right, so I've been kneading for about 4 minutes and it is beautiful, not sticking to your hands, a beautiful piece of dough. So the next part is going to put it in a bowl with olive oil is what I'm gonna use. If you don't have olive oil, you can use cooking spray, whatever you got right now, but we're gonna let that rest for about 60 to 90 minutes. What you're looking for is that it becomes twice the size of the ball of dough that you have. So I'm gonna drizzle a little bit of olive oil in my bowl just till it's nice and coated. And then I'm actually gonna lay my dough in there and I'm actually gonna roll it in there so it's completely coated so it doesn't become dry. And I'm gonna put a towel on top of it and then I'm gonna let it rest for a good 60 minutes, possibly 90 minutes, until it's double the size. So we're just gonna let it hang out so you guys can go do something for a bit and come back in about 60 minutes and start checking to see where you're at. All right, so it's been 90 minutes. I decided to wait a little bit of the little extra time to make sure it was nice and raised. Beautiful, look at that. So want to make sure it's double in size. Next thing you want to do is you actually want to punch it down. You want to punch it down so if there is any air bubbles in it, you get that out. So just kind of punching down to make sure there aren't any air bubbles. All right, whew, hot. Okay, so now I'm going to take that dough and we're going to divide this in 8 pieces. All right. So I'm going to cut it in half, do some math here. Cut in half again. And then do each of those in half. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so we're gonna roll each of these 8 pieces into a ball. The way you're gonna make them into a bagel shape is with your index finger. You're gonna go through the center and you're gonna kind of mix that through or twirl it through till you got 1.5 to 2 inches. There you go. And then we're gonna lay it. I have a sheet pan with a silk pad. If you don't have that, you can use parchment paper, wax paper, whatever you got. So just gonna do this 8 times, taking that index finger through there and twirling it around to make that 2 inch, 1 to 2 inch, 1.5 to 2 inch little circle there. Again, going through. There we go. And it will rest right there. This dough is a little dense, so you're gonna notice that you're gonna have to actually kind of work at getting that 2 inch circle in the center. You just need to kind of work with it to get it there. All right, so I have 8 bagels ready. We're actually going to cover them with whatever you got, any towel that you have, just to let them rest while we get our water bath ready. So I'm gonna just lay a couple towels over them so they don't dry out while we let them rest. There we go. So I have 2 quarts of water here, and we are going to add 1/4 cup of honey to that. And that actually helps that crust, that beautiful texture that you get on the outside of the bagel. By adding that honey into your water, it will add that nice texture to your bagel in the end. So, great tip for adding honey into anything is to add a little cooking spray into whatever you're measuring it into, and then putting your honey in. And with that, it just pours right out. So really good thing to do, even if you're doing just a tablespoon of honey to a recipe, is to add that little bit of cooking spray in there so that it pours right out. So we've got 1/4 cup with 2 quarts of water. While this rests, we need to make sure this comes up to a boil. Just to kind of say what's going to happen. Once this comes to a boil, we are going to cook those bagels for 1 minute on each side. That is also important to get that great texture that's going to happen in the end. So we want that nice honey and water bath to give that outside of our bagel the nice texture. So 1 minute per side once it comes to a boil, and then we're putting them back on the sheet pan, then into the oven they're gonna go. So our water is coming to a boil. At that point, I put it down to medium-high just to kind of keep that boil happening while we are going to cook our bagels. So I'm gonna unwrap them, and we are gonna add the first 4 in. And once I get them in, I'm gonna put my timer on for 1 minute. Start. Here we go. 1 minute. We're gonna flip them. It's gonna be 1 minute on the other side. Then we're gonna do our second batch and do it all over again. 1 minute on the first side, so I'm just gonna flip them over to the second side. And another minute. All right, so they've cooked 1 minute per side. And now I have them laying on my silk pads. And like I said, if you don't have that, parchment paper, wax paper, whatever you got is totally fine. We want to do an egg wash on this. That also helps with that texture and actually the beautiful golden look of the bagel. So we want to make sure we do that next. 1 egg white, or the egg white of 1 egg, and then 1 tablespoon of water. Whisking that together till it's nice and mixed. There we go. All right, brushing the bagels. So we just want to make sure that we get both the top and the sides of the bagel nice and brushed with that egg wash. There we go. So we have the egg wash on all of our bagels. So the next thing is to season them however you like. If you want a plain bagel, just leave it like it is. I'm gonna do a few different types of bagel. So I'm gonna do an everything bagel. So I'm going to first do sprinkle around some seasoning for that. I get mine at Trader Joe's, but whatever you like. You can make your own too. You can also roll your bagel in it if you want to, but I find sprinkling is nice. My favorite bagel is poppy seed, so definitely gonna do a poppy seed bagel. Sesame seed for a few people that don't want a lot of different flavors in theirs. There we go. And Asiago. So we're gonna add some, I freshly shredded the Asiago, and we're just gonna add that cheese right to the top. So I'm gonna continue with the other 4 bagels. We're gonna put this in a 425-degree oven, baking 20 to 25 minutes. We want it to be beautifully golden in the end. So you're just gonna kind of look for that. Once that happens, it's done. So That's what we're gonna look for. All right, so it took my bagels about 21 minutes until they became nice and golden. So at that point, obviously I took them out of the oven. You wanna let them cool for about 20 minutes on your silk pad or your sheet pan that you have. At that point, you want to put them onto a wire rack until they cool completely. So that's the next step for you guys. All right, so I let them rest for about 20 minutes and then added them to a wire rack so that they could cool completely. So now we're ready to test them out. So of course, I told you I love poppy seeds, so that's what we're gonna test out. Looks nice and chewy. Super excited about it. All right, so my favorite bagel is a poppy seed bagel with cream cheese, and I love my cream cheese, so I load it on. So here we go, our nice homemade bagels with some cream cheese. Best thing ever. Hope you guys will spend the weekend either as a family or as a couple making these bagels. If you make the dough, you can freeze it for up to 3 months before you actually make your actual bagels. So nice thing to do. I hope everybody's safe. Love everybody. Thinking of everybody. I know my family's maybe doing a competition on the bagels. So there you go. But anyway, thank you for watching my videos and hope to see you soon.